Why not? If it's for sale.
Yeah, it's only $200,000.
That's a steal.
Right. For a ferry? A passenger ferry? An 87-foot steel passenger
What
ferry.
the fuck? Okay, I'm not finding really good information on the requirements to be a train driver, but ZipRecruiter was posting train driver jobs for $10 to $16 an hour, and I'm like, that cannot be correct.
I wonder if you just get paid the entire time you're on the train, because some of those trains, go for days at a time, you know?
Yeah, I don't...
But that's bullshit.
Conductor.
It's also one of the most, dangerous jobs. If you fall under the train, you're fucking dead.
Rail superintendent... I just have many questions. I'm like, I just want to know if you need a license to drive a train.
The way the train industry is going, I feel like they don't check anyway.
I don't know.
Oh, no! I did not have to scroll down very long before I got to industrial disasters involving trains.
That's what I'm saying. They probably don't even check. They just put you on that thing. Go ahead. Here's some pet pills.
Here's some trucker pills.
You're going west.
We have scratched off the word trucker and put train pills. This lever go forward, this lever stop, this lever go woo-woo, because trains.
Woo-woo.
Yeah.
Apparently you can apply for a train driver position without completing training.
It's a lot of jobs because the company is expected to train you.
Yeah. I just have many questions, because, if we're going to attempt to buy a train.
Speaking of having many questions, hi and welcome to Blank Bodies, a Vampire the Masquerade V5, tabletop, and horror podcast. I'm your host, Hunter, and as always, I'm joined by...
Yeah, I'm John, but I still think we should give up on the train and go for the ferry instead. Life at sea, it's like what you're meant for, right?
You're not wrong, but we live in a landlocked state.
We could take over the
Technically,
Great Lakes. You're not fitting a ferry in the canal.
Not with that attitude.
Not in this canal, but the canals that go through the Great Lakes that get to real water.
Yeah.
I bet we could get to real water. And by real water, I mean the salty kind.
Yeah. Okay, so... Hi.
And we could have passengers the whole time.
We could bring all of you listeners.
We could.
Or at least as many that can fit on an 87-foot.
That's a lot of people. Anyways, I'm Sarah. Hi. We are doing Ministry bonus episode.
Bonus episode?
Yes. Episode. So we're going to be covering some weird Egyptology stuff, pseudo-archaeology, and a major U.S. company buying illegal artifacts and potentially funding terrorism.
Ooh, that's not the first time we've talked about that on the show, I don't think.
Is it the same company?
One
of them?
Maybe. I don't remember.
Okay, I like it.
It just kind of tied in, so I threw it in.
We'll find out.
We got a good Halloween mix pack of just kind of spooky ancient Egyptian artifact things.
Yeah.
So that was the thought. Content warning: there will be discussions of corpses, cannibalism, weird medical practices, conspiracy theories, and cults.
Sounds good to me.
I think every vampire, anything having to do with vampire, actually kind of technically deals with corpses.
True. And cannibalism.
Yeah, see, that's why on the tier of monster fucker, vampires are really low on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because they're just people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're just peeps.
Dead people.
They get up and move around and get sassy.
All right, so sources. I'm sorry, everyone. I went too hard. The sources are: I watched Ancient Apocalypse, So You Don't Have To series, which is 4 parts. Awful Archaeology, Dendrolites, and Pseudo-Archaeology and the Pseudoscience Pipeline by Milo Rossi. An archaeologist debated Graham Hancock. I have thoughts. Ancient Aryans, The History of Crackpot Nazi Archaeology, both by Andrew Rachik. I lost where I was. The Decline of the History Channel and Bad Nazi Documentaries by Quentin Kyle Hoover. The Gruesome History of Eating Corpses as Medicine by Maria Dolan.
Cool.
Life and Death of Mummy Brown. By Phil Colcott. Mummy Brown, A Modern Pigment's Problematic Past by Sally Woodcock. Gods, Tombs, and Nazis, the Third Reich's Bad Relationship with Egyptology.
That is a fucking title.
That is a title. I loved that. By Yakino Anton. And then Hobby Lobby's Illegal Antiquities Shed Light on Lost Looted Ancient City in Iraq by Jane Araf. And How Hobby Lobby Funded Terrorism and Tried to Destroy Democracy by Behind the Bastards.
I knew it!
Yeah!
I knew it was Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby!
I didn't want to spoil it.
That's okay, I did.
Hell yeah.
We talked about that in, I think, like, episode 5. It was an early one when we thought we were going to do, like, a gaming news episodes occasionally. And then we did that once and then never
And then
again.
we never, I think we all ADHD forgot we did that because I did.
I feel like it just wasn't our vibe.
That's valid. We tried some stuff. Nah.
Experimentation.
Yeah. I also got some more modern updates on some of the Hobby Lobby stuff, I guess. So.
Word.
Hooray. So, starting off, mummies as medicine.
Well, they're magical.
Yeah,
So if you eat them, you get their magic.
that's actually some of the old-timey logic. But yes.
You can eat pretty much anything and steal its powers.
It's true.
I mean, if you believe in yourself hard enough, yes.
I got in trouble for writing a story about that in English class once.
Oh?
You got in trouble?
We were supposed to write a short story with a group of people, and we wrote a story based on that old myth, and then we got in trouble when we presented it because they said it was too gruesome.
Oh. I mean, when you're getting into the vor, I suppose.
It was non-sexual.
Oh, okay, that's fair. That is fair.
It was just the violence they didn't like. No one in the story was popping boners, nothing like that.
Okay.
No one, the overly detailed sweat was drawn.
Okay,
Nothing like that.
So, from the Renaissance to the Victorian era, Europeans viewed corpse flesh and bones as suitable medical components.
Well, the mummies are already dry, so you can just put them in a mortar and pestle.
Oh, that's part of it.
Yeah.
That's
And
only-
shoot them up.
It's only part of it. So, this was not limited to Egyptian mummies, unfortunately, though those were very highly prized, but even to looted corpses from Ireland and convicts.
So they would mummify people and then use it.
No.
Or just stealing corpses.
Yeah, just looting corpses. There were cases I had read of looted, like Irish and also like Celtic Pictish like burial mounds, because sometimes they would sacrifice somebody to the bog, and they become a mummy, and they're just like,
mummy.
well, it's a mummy still. Meh.
Bog mummies are cool.
Bog mummies are cool.
I'll Google bog mummy.
Human mummies were preferred, but mummified animals would also be sold as medicine.
Mhm.
So, hooray.
Less powerful medicine?
Nope.
Oh, it's the same.
Yeah, it would be cheaper, I suppose, maybe. It's like Kirkland's Best Mummy.
It's kind of like protein powder, I'm guessing, where like the cheap protein powder is basically the same stuff, but the really expensive stuff, they're going to tell you it does all kinds of extra stuff. It might have extra like pre-workout in it, but it's all just protein powder. It's all just ground up mummy.
It's all just ground up mummy. The most prized mummies were those of virginal women due to their quote-unquote tasting better.
How can you tell?
I'm going to
You gotta
spare
eat a lot of
that.
mummies.
One, you have to eat a lot of mummies. Two, there's a bunch of just like weird French doctors that had a lot of opinions on the taste of mummy, and they were all very decided on virginal women mummies were like S tier, and went into graphic detail describing like the flavor of mummified virginal flesh. Yeah, it was a lot.
I know we were starting to get lab meat, and there's that company that made like lab human meat. How far away do you think we are from growing mummy meat in a lab? How long till I can taste one of these lab-grown virginal woman mummy steaks?
Check out this bog mummy I found.
Yeah, that's cool bog mummy.
Post that in the Patreon chat.
Post it right now, no context.
Yeah.
Just bog mummy.
It'll be like 2 weeks before they find out why.
They're going to forget about it. But here you are, everyone.
They'll
Your
hear
reminder.
it, and they'll go back. And then they'll know when we recorded this.
Yes, time. So, for Egyptian mummies, the use as medicine can be traced back to even ancient Greece, with doctors believing that the pitch or the bitumen, that was used in the process of mummification, could be used to treat a series of ailments.
So they weren't eating the mummies themselves as medicine. They were stuffing the mummies full of medicine.
No, part of the mummification process involved using the bitumen, and it was believed that imbibing the bitumen was like the actual medicinal part.
Oh, so they put it in, take it out, and now it's got mummy in it.
Yeah, this
and
didn't
then
bother.
that's the medicine.
Yeah, this didn't bother taking the mummy out of the bitumen. They're just like, well, it's already in there. It's soaked in,
So you can take the bitumen out of the mummy, but you can't take the mummy out of the bitumen.
basically.
Okay.
God damn it. Bitumen occurs naturally in Persia, which is the area known as Iran, for those who want maps. The Persian term for the substance is known as mum or mumia, which is where the term mummy most likely came from.
Interesting.
So, fun fact. The treatments for said mummy medicine tended to follow the rule of rub something similar to fix a problem, in this kind of crude homeopathic-like logic.
Yeah.
Rub a mummy foot on your foot if your foot hurts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of people do that with all kinds of shit now.
Yeah.
Including shit.
Yeah, so some of the there is some on the poop replantments though. There is some actual science on that because of like the internal like
poop implants?
Yeah. The germ biomes. Yeah. It's not...
I'm just talking about like rubbing it on a rash or something.
Oh yeah, no, we're not that crunchy.
Yeah, they do that sometimes.
Yeah, they should not do that.
And pee.
So some fun historical examples I found repeatedly. There's like a plethora of uses of mummy and corpse for medicine you can find in all sorts of historical documents. I just listed some that came up repeatedly. So ground skulls were used for headaches.
Okay.
To be made into some sort of pill or tincture.
Right.
Moss that could be found growing on the skull was prized for helping with epilepsy.
Ooh, I got a new idea.
Yeah, you do. You gotta get a skull moss cap.
First I gotta get a skull, and then I gotta
grow some moss
plant
on it.
moss, and then I'm cured.
And then you take that toupee. And you
Ooh, I could just wear it.
Ooh.
Maybe that would help. I'd have to shave a little bit, but...
I mean, just a festive hat.
A festive hat, that's true. I could make a merkin out of it.
You could. The lower hat.
The lower hat.
Lower wig, really.
Lower wig, true. There was also a substance called King's Drops, which is essentially ground skull mixed with alcohol, and these were said to help with nosebleeds and depression.
Huh.
I need some of that, too.
Yeah.
Weird nosebleeds and depression, like...
There's a lot of, you bleeding, rub some ground up bone on it.
Get it.
That was a lot of the logic at the time. Human fat was rendered and soaked into gauze and used for wounds like bandages to treat gout. This was corpse fat, by the way. Did not just like, we found a tubby guy and just like...
Scrape.
Yeah, no. This is dead guy fat. It would also be applied externally to treat just body aches. It was treated like tiger balm. So corpse fat.
Okay,
yeah.
then.
Interesting.
Just your leg got the aches because you did too much walking. Rub some corpse fat. Like the most macabre duck.
My shopping list is getting too long for this episode already.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, there's a lot of anticoagulant ideas tied in with ground human bones, so it didn't necessarily have to be the skull for just general bleeds, but if you got a skull bleed, which is from the nose,
put a
skull bone.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess bone powder probably does help with coagulation, much like almost any powder would.
Yeah, I feel like you could just put sawdust in there and it would still just like mix with your clotting agents.
Yeah.
And yeah, we did have a blood episode, by the way. We talked about the science of blood.
We didn't get into the bone powder in that one.
We did not get into bone powder. That is true. In Germany, it wasn't unheard of for fresh blood to be considered a health drink and good for vitality.
Oh.
The poor, who could not afford a proper supply, were said to hang around public executions to gather fresh blood from the condemned to treat various ailments.
Wild.
There's that one guy who, like, is transfusing his own son's blood into him to stay young. They still do that shit.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. Or the vampire facials that, like, some rich folks have been doing. I should not have this schadenfreude giggle, but there's been a couple of cases of those folks getting hepatitis.
Oh, no.
Because they're going to... shockingly, there's not a vicinity or that the FDA is involved in these spa treatments.
Weird.
So sanitation with needles is not being followed, and shockingly, blood diseases got passed around.
Yikes.
Yikes on trikes. So along with the physical quote-unquote medicine, there was also a belief in Europe during this time period that portions of the spirit of the deceased lingered within the body. Because this was a time period where there was still just... everyone agreed the soul existed, but they couldn't agree how it existed and how it manifested. Once you get into, like, the scientific era, there's many experiments of doctors, like, hanging out, waiting for someone to die with their, like, patient and the bed on a big scale to see that when they expire, if the soul leaving would make the body lighter. You know? Which, when you don't genuinely know, I'm like, you know what, that's not the worst idea. Like, for science reasons, I get it, but...
It's a good starter test.
Yeah, for sure. But much like eating, like how we eat animal meat, and people are like, well, if I eat this animal thing, I get to keep alive and doing things. That was kind of the logic that was passed on in, like, folk medicine with consuming human stuff. Though there was a lot of just... in text, I found fighting between Protestants and Catholics about whether or not, like, it was okay to consume human bones and flesh in the context of, like, well, we do believe in transubstantiation with the Eucharist, so we're already committed to eating a person once a week.
Right, but that's Jesus.
Yeah.
And he told us to.
That's literally, like, been the argument. Like, some guys are like, no, you can only do it if it's Jesus. And the other guys are like, look, man, we're already eating people. Like,
Hilarious.
Maybe if you got the person's permission before they died to eat them.
As medicine, I mean, I guess that's ye olde donating your body to science?
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know. I'm not aware of anyone that would do that, and I don't think culturally that would have happened at the time, because people were very attached to, no, I go in the ground. Because if I don't go into the ground and get buried properly, when Jesus comes back, I don't get to come back.
Well, that's why you pay them. You're like, hey, here's however much is historically relevant amount of money. When you die, I get you. Yeah, $30 today.
There's like, here's 3 guineas.
Oh, God.
That's a fuckload of money.
It is.
3 whole pigs.
I could see a whole...
Guinea pigs.
Oh, guinea pigs. I could see some rich folks just being like, yes, this young poor, give me your recently deceased relative for medical reasons.
If you let me buy your child's corpse to mummify, I will pay off your debt.
Oh, no. Yeah, while most of these practices have fallen out with the rise of modern medicine, many of these practices can be seen in the advancement of science, or paralleled in the advancement of science with things like organ transplants, skin grafts, tissue scaffolding, and other cutting-edge sciences we have today. So we're still using corpses for medicine, just in different ways. Mostly not eating.
I have a friend that has corpse bone in their jaw.
Oh, that's cool.
I know someone that has half of a corpse heart.
Yeah, it's metal as fuck.
I have a relative who's got some pig heart.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Science rules.
Take corpses and attach them to body parts.
See what happens.
Yeah, it's science.
Save it for the Savizzi episode.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right,
well, when they do it, it's not science. It's art.
It is.
Fair.
And science.
A little both. A little combi, a little combi.
And a spiritual guiding path.
Mummies as paint.
Hey, art.
Hey, art. Speaking of.
Hey, I accidentally did a transition.
You did. I'm proud of y'all. Mummy brown is a hue of paint that sits somewhere between burnt umber and raw umber.
Sure.
This is basically a hue of brown that is kind of a ruddy brown that isn't too red because it's still very brown. You can just Google it.
That's what I'm doing right now.
It's the most kind of like brown shade of brown you could just picture in your head when you think of the color brown. You're just like, it's mummy brown. Those who understand art, when I said the burnt umber and the raw umber, you just went,
The kind of red you'd find in a rock, I guess. Not the country, a stone.
I mean,
they probably have that color there.
Yeah.
I think they have all the same colors we do, but...
Part of me was wondering, I was like, I believe that there might have been mummies in a rock, but I gotta double check.
I think
there's mummies everywhere.
I think
Mummy brown, everyone.
Yes, there you go. Showing up for the class.
I feel like
it's the most like stereotypical brown.
It's brown.
Due to their climate, wouldn't they at least have incidental mummies?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So technically, could have had mummy brown from a rock.
All right.
But yeah,
I want to make a setite named Mummy Brown.
Why did I hear the Shaft theme play when you said that? Oh, anyways. This pigment was common in use from the 1500s, with its peak in popularity hitting in the mid-1700s throughout the 1800s. Shockingly recently. Famous paintings said to contain mummy brown include the portrait of Philip III of Spain by Pantoja de la Cruz, The Last Sleep of Arthur in Avalon by Edward Burne-Jones, Liberty Leading the People, that's the famous one where it's Liberty with their titties out, like leading the French people, by Eugene Delacroix, and then The Potato Eaters by Van Gogh. Here's the thing with that one I'm giving. I was told by a professor in an art history class that Van Gogh most likely used Mummy Brown. And looking at that painting, and it's a really early Van Gogh, you're like, yeah, that would make sense. But I didn't see any other, like, substantiation for this. But I don't know why my professor would fucking lie about that.
Could also just been one of those, like, art rumors that gets passed around.
Yeah, it's weird considering how popular Mummy Brown was as a pigment during the time period. There's a weird amount of, we're not going to acknowledge where this hue came from or what it might subsist of. And I'm like, well, you have conservators. They literally have to know to conserve the piece. So why are you making this weird? I don't know.
There's a lot of brown in that.
The potato eaters? Yeah, it's very brown. A lot of early Van Gogh work is him being like, hey, poor people, they're suffering. You should look at it to have more empathy.
Nice. Then he went and did stupid sunflowers.
He needs to return to his brown period.
Yeah.
Oh, no. But it has been noted that at least 2 painters from the pre-Raphaelite movement, which is like during the 1800s when a bunch of rich guys were like, hey, we like paintings from before Raphael from the Renaissance era, so that's where you get a lot of Victorian era Arthurian paintings and like Celtic Pictish, like European mythos kind of paintings.
Right.
Yeah. At least 2 of their artists, once they found out that Mummy Brown was literally made from people, had a panic attack, dug a hole in their backyard, and had a little funeral for their tube of paint.
Oh my god. That's adorable.
Right. They're just so bothered. Just, one of them was, Edward Burne-Jones was one of them.
Nice.
So the guy's like, yeah. Also, his series of, like, Arthurian paintings are fucking dope, if you get a chance. They're very pretty. They're cool as fuck. But yeah, at least 2 artists have historically been noted to find out corpse paint was corpse paint and then tried to bury it. And and then they spent the rest of their careers trying to make amends for the sins against humanity they've done with their corpse paint.
It's a whole new version of corpse paint.
Yeah.
Well, that's the original version of corpse paint, really.
Yeah.
Turns out if you want to wear real corpse paint, that black metal dude's got it wrong. You're getting canceled for a different reason. Because you're putting on Mummy Brown.
Yeah. So this paint fell out of favor in the 1900s, with the last tubes of paint being sold by Robertsons of London, which is a paint making house in like the early 1960s. And I have a quote from one of their management team if one of you guys wants to read it.
Sure. We might have a few odd limbs laying about somewhere, he apologized, but not enough to make any more paint. We sold our last complete mummy some years ago for, I think, £3? Perhaps we shouldn't have. We certainly can't get any more. That was the managing director of Robertsons of London in 1964. Someone got the last tube for £3.
Oh no, somebody got the last corpse from them for £3.
Oh,
So
that's
cheap.
a whole corpse.
Yeah.
So
That's
cheap.
crazy.
Even in 1960s money.
It's so cheap.
Yeah. Europeans are not good about the whole, like, buying mummies and then just fucking off with we'll get into that a little bit.
I want to know where that mummy is.
Girl, good fucking luck.
I know, but I just want to know its story, you know?
Honestly, though.
Did it go and become Mummy Brown paint for one person?
Just some
Like,
weird
I'm
fucking...
gonna make my own tube of Mummy Brown.
It needs to be authentic.
Yeah.
Oh, there's crazy art people that would absolutely do that.
For sure.
I mean, there's still people going to war over the rights to specific colors, like the black is black, and then the new blacker black, and then the pink is pink, and all that shit.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's
the one guy who's not allowed to use them.
Amish Kapoor.
So funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck Amish Kapoor. But I do love that the company that is making the black's black and the pink is pink, they also did what they're calling the bluest blue, I think, but it's literally just the blue from Tiffany's that they ripped off because Tiffany's has a copyright on that shade of blue specifically.
Fine.
And they're just like, nah.
This is the bluest blue.
Well, yeah, because that company's whole ethos is no one should own a color.
Yeah.
That's fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool if you want to trademark, like, a color or, you know, having a certain set of colors to notify your product, but you can't just own a color.
Yeah, like, I understand being like, don't paint your tractors green and yellow like a John Deere.
Yeah.
And not be John Deere, but you can't sell anything in that specific John Deere green.
That hex code of green. Yeah, it's fucking wild. So, for those of you who are interested in procuring your own mummy browns, you can find ethical versions of the hue that are made by several different companies. I even found like small like artisanal pigment crafters that recreate mummy brown. It does exist in oil and watercolor. And it seems to be made now of a combination of some crushed hematite and iron oxide to get that kind of ruddy brown.
Like that kind of rust.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rust is a little bit redder, but I bet the hematite helps.
Which also makes me go, so we could have had roughly this exact same color and not been destroying artifacts and graves for hundreds of years.
Yeah, but it's more fun.
You get to go on adventures.
Adventures. Speaking of adventures, mummies as entertainment.
Oh no. Man, we keep getting these fucking transitions, Hunter.
Fucking, I'm proud of you guys.
I'm like psychic or something.
Yeah, you guys get a couple more. I'll get you a pack of fruit gushers.
Bad.
I joked, I'm sorry. So, post-Napoleon running into Egypt and raiding the place and supposedly shooting the nose off the Sphinx and just being a little menace. Because basically Napoleon, it was a weeb, but for Egypt.
All right.
Nice.
What is that called? A weeb, but for Egypt?
Egyptologist.
Yep.
But yeah, I haven't thought of a good modern equivalent of colloquialism for European guy who's like way too into Egypt in ways where you're just like, bruh, you need to shower. Mm-hmm. Which would be weird for Egypt fan to not shower because they were like super into bathing. Anywho, after Napoleon was like, I went to Egypt and I did all sorts of adventures and things and whatever, a bunch of Europeans that were fancy lads were like, oh yes, I too shall go and have a fancy lad vacation. And it was like the height of culture and things to do. Do you want to read the little quote that's underneath that? Because I thought it was funny.
It would hardly be respectable on one's return from Egypt to present oneself without a mummy in one hand and a crocodile in the other. Father Gleb, 1833.
I think it's pronounced Haram.
Jerome.
Jerome.
Yeah.
It's French?
Yes.
Jerome.
Yeah, that's why you don't say the B at the end.
Jerome. Father Jerome.
But yeah.
Is that in the back of my throat enough?
I think you nailed it.
Okay.
So, mummy unrollings became a popular party activity amongst the elites who could afford a mummy, either purchased whilst in Egypt or from some sort of dealer whilst in Europe. I did find some conflicting sources where some were like, yeah, a lot of rich folks did this, and it was fucking weird. And then some were like, the reports of this are overstated. And I'm like,
It's probably somewhere in the middle.
Probably somewhere in the middle. Probably this happened an uncomfortable amount of times, but it wasn't like, oh, hey, so we're having a seasonal salon. This is time to crack open another warm one with the boys. I can't say cold one because it's a mummy.
I hope it's not too warm either, though.
I mean, it's dried out.
Yeah, room temperature maybe. Best.
Maybe you just keep your mummy in the freezer.
That would be so hard to do back then.
Frozen mummy.
Because you have to have it like in the ice box. You have to like get a guy to go get ice to put it in the ice box.
You're rich. You
That's
bought
fair.
a mummy.
If you can afford a mummy, you should be able to afford ice blocks.
Apparently they're only 3 pounds.
That's true.
Yeah, but that's now talking 1800s money. 3 pounds is so much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Inflation. Am I right, kids? So many of these parties were cloaked in some sort of academia, but were hardly more than just the weirdest fucking unboxing. I've read several accounts of people describing these mummy unwrapping events. Ones that happened in, like, salons or, like, small, like, oh, yes, we're smart people. And then some that were actually done in actual universities. And the ones at actual universities seem to be a little bit more attempting to do a science, but it was often done in front of a public audience, so there was just a lot of, whoa.
Right.
So yeah, it's just ye olde unboxings. Because, like, as you're unwrapping the mummy, this ancient perfume resins would, like, become noticeable, and mummies were often wrapped with little trinkets and things. So you're unwrapping the mummy, and they're just like, ooh, found a little surprise. Ooh, I found another little surprise.
Great.
Ethical dilemmas aside, it does sound kind of fun.
Yes, I'm going to be real.
Do we need to wrap you up as a mummy with little trinkets and then do a live stream of your unwrapping?
I feel like that would be hard to set up in an interesting way on camera, but I'm not
Oh, no. We do the setup
Everybody-
ahead of time.
Everybody will wear GoPros.
No, we do the setup ahead of time. That's not on the stream.
Okay, so I'm pre-wrapped.
You come
Ready to go.
pre-wrapped. Yep.
Okay, like a swisher.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the stream is just us unwrapping you.
And finding trinkets.
Yeah.
Okay, it's an idea.
That's an idea. We'll put that in the pocket. Have him laid out onto like a decorated slab, and we just pretend that it's like the 1800s, and we're just like, yes, we've come here to study the wonders of the ancient.
Mummy month.
For Mummy Month.
Mummy
My god. You guys are gonna make me reread Mummy. Fuck.
I've done it. Don't
Thomas,
sound too excited.
Thomas Mummy Pettigrew was an English scholar and a showman who made spectacles out of unwrapping mummies as public edutainment events. You can find posters from these edutainment events that have been archived. They're very silly.
He did it so often, it became his middle name.
It became a nickname. Yep.
That's so cool.
Oh. Would you like to be known as Mummy Pettigrew?
It's the Pettigrew part that I think I have an issue with. That's the kind of name that just like destined to be bullied.
Yep, that is true. Thomas Mummy Pettigrew, he did become the founding treasurer of the British Archaeological Society. That was the correct noise.
That's pretty fucked up, honestly, though. He was like well-known public figure, specifically for mummies, and they're like, you can be the treasurer.
I mean, having the power of the purse, though, for a major organization like that, it's like...
That is a lot of power.
Yeah.
But it's very funny that they didn't... not an archaeologist or anything. It's like, you can be in charge of the money. We're going to take care of...
Yeah. Like, he did a lot of work in the academic spheres, as far as I could understand, but he wasn't a field man.
Okay. So, do you think would you say that you think, from what you read, that he actually contributed to the world of science, or was he just unwrapping mummies in public?
Both.
Both?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is so early in just the fields of anthropology, because there was a uncomfortable amount of mummy unwrapping events that I read about, where the more scientifically inclined gentlemen were like, but I must measure the skull, because I have to know if the ancient Egyptians were white.
Right.
There was a lot of weird phrenology stuff, and people could not decide if the ancient Egyptians were white or African. So there were, some of these anthropology guys early on were like unwrapping mummies to like do phrenology measurements. Because it was important to know the race of the ancient Egyptians. You only have 4 categories.
Look at their paintings.
Yeah, but this is also like the starting of coming up with the idea of whiteness, and because of the bullshittery of that, to this day, Arab Americans still count as white on the census.
Weird.
Yeah.
All right.
Even though they're like their own like phenotype and, cultural group that has their own it's fucked up. It's weird.
They did, but Irish people didn't. If you want to know the state of things at the time.
Yeah. We can talk about the Irish later.
Oh my.
What clan is that? What clan do we have left that represents the history of the Irish and the Scottish, Sarah?
Caitiff. Anyways.
Yeah, nobody wants
You could
them.
probably convince me about that. I know nothing about the caitiff. You could convince me almost anything.
They're like vampires, but not. Anywho, moving on. As time wore on, these unwrappings became actually more scientific, and then went behind closed doors within academic institutes due to wishing to preserve the artifacts and actually respect the dead. And I had the fun note of... Here's where I put the information about anthropology kind of starting really early on here. So there's a lot of like, we're measuring the bones, mostly the skull, for phrenology reasons. And then later on in the 1930s, fun fact, despite what Indiana Jones told us, the Nazis really didn't give that much of a fuck about Egypt. Like, not in the archaeological sense. They gave a lot of fucks about Egypt because the British had it and fuck them. So... There were a lot of Nazis in Egypt in the 1930s and 40s, but they weren't really invested in it. Like, their whole ancient Aryans ideologies were more tied into, like, going through Persia into Tibet was more where Himmler was like sending folks to go do actual research. There were a handful of Nazis that were actually Egyptologists, and they were like, no, but this is important. And all the Nazis were like, nah.
We got meth.
Yeah. For one exception.
Oh?
It was around this time that the famous bust of Nefertiti was discovered, but it was during Nazi-occupied Egypt. And for some fucking reason, Hitler fucking loved this bust. Fucking loved it. So once it was, like, dug up, they brought it to Germany, and he just, like, kept it. And then diplomats were like, hey, H-Man, we're trying to work on diplomatic relationships with the locals in Egypt, you know, because we just took their country from the British. Can we get that bust? And, like, maybe that will, like, help smooth things over. And Hitler was like, no, it's mine now.
I mean, it is a really cool bust.
It's a really cool bust. It's a really cool artifact, but I'm just like, he actively did not give a fuck about any kind of archaeological research until, like, this one bust. And then he just was like, my precious.
He's like, wow.
Wow, look at her. What a dame.
I'd hang out with this lady. She's got a cool-ass hat.
Yeah, got a cool hat. Speaking of Nazis in Egypt, pyramids and ancient aliens. Woo! Ba-da-da, da-da-da. So pyramids, it's a fucking good way to stack rocks.
That's true.
Yeah. You don't really need special tech to stack rocks into this fucking shape.
Yeah, you can stack eggs like that. You can stack tennis balls.
Just the way, like, physics and gravities works. If you just have a pile of something and you drop it, it kind of just makes a vague pyramid shape. Also look at hills and mountains. Nature just be kind of making pyramids.
If you pour sand in one spot, it naturally forms like
a cone-ish pyramid-y shape.
Yeah, the sides aren't as flat, but if you're building, that's the easy part.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't want to discount any of, like, the great engineering feats done by ancient peoples literally across the planet on making their cool pyramids. But to act like building a pyramid was something you needed superpowers or lasers or any of that shit for is fucking weird.
Sarah.
Yes.
Counterpoint.
Yes.
Rocks are heavy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Counterpoint.
Yeah, what you do is you either get, like, a bunch of your bros together.
You make it a group activity.
You literally make it a group activity.
Hey bros, I need to move this rock.
We have tons of evidence of the usage of, like, sleds and boats and
logs.
And logs.
Just put a log under it.
Yeah. Or there's another thing you do where you take a rock and you carve it into a cube. Mm-hmm. And then you lay out on the ground stacked up against each other over, like, row by row by row, logs cut in half, and then you can roll the cube over the logs like it's a wheel.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense.
You're using the cube almost like a gear.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, there's tons of ways to move heavy-ass shit with nowhere near as much force as you think it would take.
Okay, but Sarah.
Yes.
Obviously, they use tractor beams.
Actually, I mean, that explains why, like, tall buildings, let alone, like, skyscrapers, were so impressive when, like, it started happening big time here in the States.
Yeah.
Because it was just a square all the way up. It didn't pyramid up.
It didn't pyramid. It was just a pole.
There's equal weight up top as there is down below for the most part.
Yeah, and then you get to the top and they're like tiny pyramid.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
Because they gotta look cool and you gotta have that super special office at the very top.
Yeah, it's just, I'm not gonna break down the physics math on this, but essentially triangles in our dimension are really stable shapes.
Yeah.
Fucking sturdy as shit.
Yeah.
Like, even a lot of engineering stuff involving skyscrapers, and particularly, like, the weird super skyscrapers we're getting in our day and age because Dubai has to, for reasons.
Because big building.
Yeah. Large.
Big building. And a lot of them are actually unfinished.
Yeah.
Just been abandoned.
Imagine.
I mean, it would be kind of cool to explore them, though.
It would be terrifying, but cool. But yeah, a lot of those involve a lot of triangle shapes, and essentially it's just, this is the skeleton of a pyramid, and you just put a bunch of glass on it.
Lots of pyramids.
I say as us living in the yeehaw wonder of the United States with the biggest pyramid on the planet, the Bass Pro Shop.
It's a pretty cool pyramid.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool pyramid. But yeah, I just think it's wild to say that humans couldn't agree based on just general evidence and things that pyramid, good shape for stacking rocks.
Yeah.
Like, what? So, for those who are not aware, we do have a lot of what has been termed pseudo-archaeology that we are contending with in this. So pseudo-archaeology is a category of pseudoscience, and this is where fragments or misinterpretations of archaeological evidence are used to bolster claims, typically in the framework of conspiracy theories or religious doctrine. So, the ancient aliens were they're just like, yeah, well, you see, the pyramids weigh this much, which is correlated to this thing, so therefore it was planned by the Atlanteans. I didn't write examples here because there's just thousands and thousands of these weird pseudo archaeological videos that you can just find super easy.
Tractor beams.
It's the shit that contributed to many people of my generation's grandparents' decline.
Yeah.
As they just left the History Channel on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But they're just like, what if? Sorry, I can't finish.
Is the History Channel a psyop?
I don't think it is. I think the History Channel has...
Sucks.
The History Channel's becoming suck.
Yeah.
Is kind of similar to the phenomenon we have with pseudo-archaeology with just, like, social media, where it has a very low bar of entry just because it's, like, weird, wacky shit. It's novel. Mm-hmm. So it gets a lot of engagement, which encourages people to make more of that shit. And what's problematic now is our grandparents were limited by they could only go to the History Channel. If they wanted to get any weirder, they had to like go to a bookstore or a convention. Mm-hmm. And Pop does not like social events, so he's not going to the convention.
Well, also from my understanding, the reason there was so much specifically World War II and Nazi shit was because the company that started the History Channel bought a huge archive of historical footage, the majority of which was World War II and Nazi footage. And so, like, we have all this footage to use. So they just kept making that shit. And you can only make so many documentaries about normal World War II history before you have to start getting a little out there with your ideas.
Yeah, and there is that kind of, it's kind of akin to, like, in true crime, if you want to fucking sell books, you put Dahmer on the cover. Mm-hmm. With the history people, it's a similar thing. Like, if you put a swastika on the cover of your shit, it's gonna fucking sell. Mm-hmm. Just because there's a lot of intrigue and scandal still tied into this portion of history. But kind of going on with that, because, the History Channel, unfortunately, started hiring people that were just, like, a little too into tanks. Mm-hmm. In that way, to quote Quentin Reviews, if the Nazis were that smart, they would have won the fucking war. They aren't. Stop rizzing these fucking corpses up. They're terrible people.
Yeah, but they did not have a flying ship design shaped like a bell.
No, not really, no. There might have been some wackadoo guy who was just like, I can trick them into paying for my idea. And they're just like, you know what, I'm on enough meth? Sure, man.
I love it. Can you get done tomorrow?
Yeah. But on the U.S. side, we also were, like, working on bat bombs.
Yeah.
Like, part of the offensive for D-Day literally involved making inflatable fake tanks to put on the French coast to psych the Nazis out, and it worked.
Hell yeah.
It's really cool. That just Bugs Bunny ass plan.
Hell yeah.
It's cool as fuck if you go research it. But with modern times, we have it's the start of the History Channel pipeline. But because of the way algorithms work and the way they try to link people for content, what ends up happening is you start looking at, this is a silly video about pyramids. Hey, these people are lying to you about the pyramids. These people are lying to you. And then, it becomes a problem. And one of the ideas that does come up often in these kinds of materials is the concept of hyperdiffusion, which is a broad category of thought starting in the early 1900s anthropology that basically believes all major civilizations on Earth are descended from one master civilization.
Okay, then. Yeah,
which is not true at all. And has some unfortunate implications depending on how you spin it.
But the Lemurians.
Oh, God. God, that made me tired immediately. I have to deal with more and more. Just like, it's the Aquarius children.
There was one time I was in Broad Ripple, and I was walking around, and there was a guy busking, and we sat down next to him. We were just kind of hanging out. He's a guy I didn't know. But we gave him some water, and we were hanging out, and he was like, hey, you guys are really kind souls. I have this gift for you. And he gives me this little piece of quartz, and he's like, if you listen close enough and you place it against, this part of your body, you can hear the singing of Lemuria through it. And he gave me this whole ass thing about Lemuria, and I was like, right on, that's sick. And then I took the rock and I glued it to a little dangly charm thing, and then I drilled a hole through an opossum jaw, and I hung it from a possum jaw.
Nice.
Yeah. I never heard the singing of Lemuria, though.
Did you try, though?
I did. I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. Let's find out what happens. And it's a rock.
You didn't listen hard enough.
Yeah, it's probably true. I should have.
He judged your soul wrong. He thought you had a Lemurian soul, but it turns out
I am an old one.
Yeah, but
By like that, I mean my body feels old.
Yeah, which those who, with the Lemurians and the ancient Aryans and ancient Atlanteans and all that kind of stuff, is where the hyperdiffusions and stuff traces further back into esotericisms from thoughts like Madame Blavatsky.
Who Hitler got a lot of ideas.
Yeah, he did. Oh, well, yes, but no. Himmler certainly fucking did, that little weirdo. Because, you know, he's like, oh, yeah, no. We clearly all civilization came from a Grand Master Germanic race, and I need to prove this. So we had the Ahnenerbe, which was the squadron of Nazi archaeologists that had, like, a weird fuck club and, like, special rings. Like, I shit you not, they had special rings.
The Nazis had a lot of special rings.
Yeah, they did. They had a lot of special rings.
Like, this is a bad time to bring it up, I guess, but I think people should probably bring back special rings.
Yeah, bring back special rings, not like this.
Yeah.
Not for your genocide club.
Truth.
Yeah, but yeah, with the Ahnenerbe, they were the ones that were mostly going into, like, through the Middle East into Tibet, which is where I think we get 10 Years in Tibet with Brad Pitt. I think that's where that movie comes from.
Not seen that.
Not seen it either.
It's a weird movie I had to watch in high school where Brad Pitt's blonde as fuck and he's like a Nazi mountain climber and he goes to Tibet and hangs out with like the guy who was the Dalai Lama before the Dalai Lama.
The current one, you mean?
Yeah. It was like...
Oh, to be a fly on that wall.
It was... Yeah. But it was like, yeah, Nazi Brad Pitt hanging out with young Dalai Lama, but like the guy who was the Dalai Lama before the current guy, but is the same guy... Reincarnation. It's a whole thing. Yeah, but that kid. It was a weird fucking movie to be like watching in a very progressive liberal high school. It's just like, this movie's kind of making me want to cheer for the Nazi, which is weird. Can we not watch this? Well, anywho. So, what is the problem with all of this stuff? To read the quote, the moment you begin to listen to someone who has no credentials tell you that the people with credentials are lying to you, you start to fall down a kind of slippery slope. And this is from Milo Rossi, who is the guy who does awful archaeology, Minute Miniman, does a bunch of like debunking of pseudo archaeology. He also does cocktails sometimes with his breakdowns on things. And if people want, he made a corn-based cocktail called the Nebraska Man.
Oh.
So we might be convinced to do that. But did want to note, to have your credentials and all that does not necessitate that you have to have like a degree, let alone a high degree, to be understandable in the subject. Like lesser or amateur knowledge is fine, but kind of understanding where your knowledge is and where your lane is. Because I understand for us to be like, you need to pay attention to people with credentials, but we're a bunch of yahoos talking about a game. It's like, yeah, we've spent our time like researching and reading the stuff in the game book, so I would like to think that we have credentials to talk on X, Y, and Z, but we generally don't talk over other people and act like, but no, we are the only arbiters.
Well, I know everything there is to know about nuclear fission, so...
I think I am the most outspoken podcaster on Mummy,
that is
the Resurrection.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the problem more kicks in is when amateurs or grifters, which is usually more of the problem, try to speak over people that have like professions and careers in a field of knowledge as if the amateur or the grifter has more knowledge than the actual professional.
Yeah.
So you end up, instead of having like questioning and engaging, just being like, how does this work? And like comparing notes and like collaborative building of knowledge, it turns into like undermining and vilifying, which is where you end up in that rabbit hole thing of just like, well, they are lying to you. And suddenly you're just getting a lot of videos about the Rothschilds.
Oh.
And then you end up in like weird conspiracy corners.
Right.
Where you're like, but no, like the pyramids are all connected together and da-da-da-da-da.
Well, you see, if you stand on one side of the pyramid and you face a very specific direction, it lines up with Stonehenge.
We live on a globe.
On a circle.
We live on a circle. I hate to break this to you. If you stand anywhere and point in a direction vaguely in the direction of another object and you go, you're gonna hit it.
No.
That's how you know the world's flat, though. Because if I point out to the west and I shot a laser straight out, I would go into space. But being flat, I'll end up in Europe.
Yeah. It's turtles all the way down.
The Ministry are like sea turtles. It's the Brujas like sea turtles. I'm sorry. Anyways, but the good news is there is hope on the situation, so you don't have to get bogged down with like, oh my god, conspiracy theories. We're all doomed.
Bogged?
Bogged.
Like a mummy?
Bog-mummy.
Awesome.
It's all coming up bog-mummy.
So,
So, the cool thing is we have the internet and social media,
Hey-o.
and this tool is a two-way street.
a double-edged sword.
Yes.
A
A double dong, if you will.
A twofer.
A twofer. A donk, if you will. A double-ended donk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A donk.
The donk.
Or one of those double-headed, quadruple-headed battle axes you see in the 3.5 D&D.
That's so fucking bananas.
Yeah.
It is, but yeah. So, cool thing is because of these tools that we have greater access to potentially billions of viewers all over the planet, each one of us.
Which is pretty neat.
Which is cool as fuck.
It's also pretty bad.
Yeah, each of us carries a device that can contact nearly anyone on the planet, and any one of us can, at the drop of a hat, share things with the world, which I think is cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cool and nifty things humans have done.
I enjoy it.
Yeah. So, we can use good science communication and interact with good science content and share good science content, and it'll help combat the deluge of pseudoscience. Because pseudoscience gets shared, and that's what causes that big giant wormhole thing. So if you just go, pseudoscience, mid, do not engage, do not interact,
It
will get less.
is cap.
It's not cap.
It's not cap? I thought not cap.
Well,
was
it's
cap.
both. We're saying it's
Yeah.
good. It's a double-headed.
Oh.
It is double-headed cap.
Yes.
It's one of those pens that the one side has the fine tip and the other side has the broad tip, which is
Okay. I like that.
yeah.
Those pens are okay, but one side always runs out before the other, and then you just have one pen, but then you have to remember which side works.
Yeah, I don't normally like the double-sided pens myself.
I just smashed the end that's broken, or that doesn't have anymore.
And then you're like, I literally can't use it.
Yeah, I
There you
know
go.
by looking at it because it's not there.
Interesting.
But the extra good news is this tool in this cycle of algorithmic hellscape can work for any subject, not just science.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Any variety of content that you have a passion about, hyperfixation, or any knowledge-based skill or talent that you wish to share, fucking do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should see my timeline sometime. It's wild.
Yeah? Hell yeah.
I feel like the app sometimes feels bad for the things it shows me. It still
What do you
thinks I'm a Hispanic single parent. And that my friend came to visit recently, and he said to me, you know, Hunter, I always like hanging out with you. Whenever there's a quiet moment, I catch you look at your phone, you're smiling, and then I peer over, and it's just like a dog taking a shit somewhere funny or something.
Not inaccurate.
Not inaccurate. But, you know, you can, you have a cool project or a thing you're doing, you should share it.
Put it on the internet.
Yeah. You see somebody that's like, hey, these people are making good content. Share it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying just us. Like, we do good stuff, I like to think. And if you share us, thank you. We appreciate that.
But do share us.
Yeah. But there's also, like, in the community Discord, that's why I make a point of sharing, like, oh, I found a cool video essay about some, like, media, like, content discussion, or cool science video, or this, like, hey, this person made a cool art thing. Yeah. Outside of just, like, the, guys, I found the shiny, this is cool, I want to share it. It's also just, like, hey, guys, sharing these and, like, hitting all the buttons when it's good.
Important.
Important.
Yeah. Because pseudoscience is not as cute as pseudo-dragons.
No, they're not. So, yeah, positivity. It's like, hey, guys, we can combat all of the stupid shit with the same tools that they're using to beat us over the head with the stupid shit.
Yeah.
Yeah! Speaking of stupid shit, Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby. I have extra reasons to hate Hobby Lobby, because they're part of the reason I don't have bodily autonomy rights anymore.
I say I cannot condone crime. But if someone was going to steal from a craft store, I think Hobby Lobby is the best one to do it from.
I'm not going to tell you to do it, but I don't think any court in this land should mark you as guilty. There is
should or will
should
are different
not,
things.
yes. But there is this thing called jury nullification. Just look it up, kids. So with Hobby Lobby, the founder and CEO is a gentleman known as David Green.
All right.
Not a cool dude. He is also the father of Steve Green, who is not only the president of Hobby Lobby, but because I don't business well, I did not realize that president and CEO were two different positions.
I think it depends on the company.
Yeah. So apparently those are two different positions that you can have on, like, the high up on the company. So, But Steve Green also is one of the founders, or the founder, of the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. The focus of the museum is to understand the creation, spread, and influence of the Bible, along with promoting and validating various evangelical Christian beliefs.
Great.
It's almost... The tactics that they use are, like, so almost something you could see a ministry character doing, but because they're Christian, it's like, it doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
But, you know, I could not talk about it as we go, but here we go. Also a note, Hobby Lobby had the revenue of $7.9 billion in 2023.
Gross.
This fuck-ass craft store. Just wild. Imagine selling that many foam balls. That's a lot of balls.
Foam balls, like $2.
Yeah.
Depends on the size.
Yeah,
That's
but
true.
if you get your cheap craft shit made in China for like pennies on the dollar and then you come and sell it in the US for a few bucks,
That's true.
Absolutely.
that's how you get to $7.9 billion in 1 year. Anywho, Hobby Lobby bought looted antique artifacts, ancient artifacts, I apologize. Most of them were cuneiform tablets and cylinders that had been looted from Iraq in 2003.
Great.
Yeah, you know, when the U.S. was, like, fucking around in the area, and we were like, yeah, we'll guard your stuff. We're here to spread freedom.
Yoink.
And then, yeah, other people were like, yoink. So these artifacts were shipped through the United Arab Emirates and Israel, being labeled as sample tiles.
Whoa.
I was like, I don't know what craft they were planning. Because there was, like...
I mean, they're mostly like tablets, cuneiform tablets and
Yeah.
stuff. They're tiles.
They are tiles.
Technically.
Yeah.
Sampling what? I'm not sure.
The purchase of the artifacts totaled $1.6 million for a total of 5,500 items.
Jeez.
That's a lot of samples. That's a lot of samples. And the way they did it was wild, because I read through some of the DOJ report on this, and they broke up the purchase into several lots and had them shipped to several different Hobby Lobby stores.
Stores.
Yeah!
Being the fucking manager that's like, all right, time to do some inventory. What the fuck is this?
Sample tiles.
Sample tiles. Does this go in the spooky section for Halloween?
We
or-
don't do Halloween here.
Not
This is
Christian enough.
No, it is not.
We put our Santas out for Halloween.
To combat the
Yes.
devil.
Exactly.
I think I've seen that movie.
If I haven't, I need to. If it doesn't exist, someone make it.
Yeah, so these artifacts were given to the Museum of the Bible for displays, allegedly, though the museum claims that they were never a part of the collection.
Where the fuck are they?
The artifacts?
Yeah.
Oh, well, good news is the DOJ caught them with these thousands of illegal artifacts in, like, 2010. So around the time when the Hobby Lobby case with about employers meddling with your medical rights thing was going in the Supreme Court, this was happening in the background.
Ah, okay.
That's very funny.
What the fuck?
But yeah, why did the DOJ get involved? Seems like an interesting thing. So, well, buying and selling looted artifacts generally goes against international laws anyways. But there's also the fact that these funds are used to fund religious extremist groups like ISIS.
So that's Hobby Lobby's fault.
Yeah, well, not directly, but a big chunk of their funding.
I'm gonna pretend directly. Maybe I like to think that they didn't know they were doing.
Well, here's the thing, and we'll get into that.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So during the height of their reign, ISIS is supposed to have looted $4 to $7 billion worth of artifacts from Iraq and the surrounding area.
Woo.
Which, considering the Tigris and Euphrates River Valley area is considered one of the major cradles of human civilization, there's just
So much.
so much, so fucking much.
Yeah.
There's so much just fucking history that they not only looted and sold to fund their fuck-ass ideas, they also destroyed a bunch of shit due to their religious ideas on just dumb fuck... It's just...
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So, along with ISIS, also groups like Al-Qaeda looted and then sold artifacts from Iraq.
Hobby Lobby was funding Al Qaeda.
Probably. So, expert artifact dealers and historians and stuff at that time, and there's one specifically who advised Steve Green while in the United Arab Emirates to not buy these artifacts specifically for this reason.
Because they didn't have the Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't have the proper documentation, and it was very well understood at the time that if you're buying antiquities, under normal circumstances, you're kind of taking a crapshoot on whether or not the artifact is genuine, let alone not something that had been stolen and might be going to, like, organized crime or other, like, terrorist groups.
Mm-hmm.
And then at this time, there was specifically, like, this is a known problem. Like, don't fucking do this.
Yeah, it is currently happening.
Yeah, like, I cannot guarantee where this came from and who's been fucking with it and where these funds will go after. Do not spend your money here, sir. And then Steve Green went, but I have a check and I have a Bible museum to fill, allegedly. So, I love that word, allegedly. It's
good.
Fantastic. It's doing a lot of work. So yeah, it's just... And it was, I had read a portion of the interview from the specific artifacts dealer who was with him in the UAE, and she is given the idea of like, hey, do you think Mr. Green hired you so he can understand how to circumvent the laws and smuggle these artifacts out despite your warnings? And she's like, I can't rule it out.
Yep.
Yay!
Also, the fine is not
No.
enough.
No, the company was fined $3 million, but the artifacts were returned to Iraq.
That's good.
Which is good.
They should have put them out of business.
Yeah. Yes, they needed to go to fucking jail.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're aiding and abetting terrorists. Cool, into the box you go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we're gonna have standards here. But yeah, there's an interview I found on NPR with a local, like, museum from one of the major museums that was looted in Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, yeah, we got our artifacts back, but we have them in security in the back of the museum because we're too afraid to have them out lest they be looted again.
Oh my god.
And I'm just like, oh my god, is this little just Iraqi grandma museum like head? And I'm just like, oh my god, lady, no. I'm so sad because I want you to show me your cool stuff because history is dope as fuck, but you can't because you're like, they're gonna fucking steal it again. This is one of the few times where I'm like, it does actually belong in a museum. Yeah. So we can all look at it and go, cool,
That's neat.
Humans are rad. Anywho, unfun note, this is not the only hate group that Hobby Lobby has funded. By the way, everyone. I do want to note that David Green has been cited in many interviews that he believes God is part of his business and infuses his beliefs within the company.
Yeah.
Hobby Lobby has donated to a organization called the National Christian Foundation. And as of 2015 through 2017, the National Christian Foundation donated $56 million to 23 different nonprofits that were ID'd as hate groups by the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Oh.
And these groups focused on anti-LGBT, anti-Muslim, anti-immigrant, and anti-choice legislations and efforts. Fuck Hobby Lobby.
Yeah. It upsets me.
Yeah.
That $3 million fine.
Right?
Upsets
It just
me
makes you...
so much.
I'm like, I'm glad they got caught. I'm glad the artifacts went back to where they belong.
Yes.
They needed to be charged more. This is bullshit.
Even if they didn't go to prison, it should have been like, okay, you aren't allowed to, like, have a business. Sorry, liquidate.
Yeah. We're forcing you to sell the business to literally anyone else.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. And lest anyone think Hobby Lobby's nefarious weirdness affect just the borders within the United States, the NCF in 2008 funded and supported efforts in Uganda to criminalize homosexuality. So it's not just here in the USA, guys. This is a problem.
Wild.
It's wild. So fuck Hobby Lobby. But to end on a fun note, Hobby Lobby, due to various reasons, does not have barcodes on their items. They say externally that it is to encourage their staff to have an understanding of their inventory and keep better track of their inventory management and product knowledge. It's pretty widely known that in evangelical Christian circles, there's a big conspiracy theory that barcodes are or part of the Great Satan and Mark of the Beast 666.
I have a whole movie about that.
Yeah.
I should start collecting barcodes.
Yeah, barcodes are the devil. There's several.
There's a whole song about it.
Yeah. There's several peak of the Satanic Panic videos and documentaries and VHS tapes that will explain it. I had somebody explain it to me against my will at a Christian music festival once. And they're like, no, you see, it's the Mark of the Beast because these 3 lines in all barcodes is 666. So therefore you can't do business unless you work with the devil. And I'm like, cool, man, but you're drinking a Coke. And I don't know if you've noticed.
Coke is bad.
It has a barcode on the can.
Yes.
So, do with that information what you will. Don't commit crimes against Hobby Lobby.
Yeah.
Don't. But if you want a kind of fun, if you're not somebody who's fully aware of the insanity of these kinds of pseudo-archaeological beliefs that have a religious foundation, there is an episode of Wheel of the Worst by Red Letter Media. It's Wheel of the Worst 5, that they cover the video infamously known as SOS, which is a video produced by a Japanese Christian cult. And the segment on it is fucking hilarious, but it does get into the barcode conspiracy and several others. So, and I think there is I think there's a rip somewhere of the full SOS video.
It's probably on archive.
Yeah. So it's just, if you just want to have a haha, just go look up like videos about barcodes conspiracies, because they're so funny. But
my favorite related one is the Monster Energy conspiracy.
Oh God, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So dumb. I know, I just said, yeah, go look at these for a haha, while after also saying, don't engage with this bad stuff. But it's like, you know what you're going to do.
I engage with terrible things daily, and I'm fine.
Yeah,
You got to know yourself and your limit.
Knowing yourself, knowing your limits, knowing when and how to check yourself and make sure you're not, like, becoming one of those, like, they're out to get me. And it's like, who's they? Like, what are you talking about?
I can consume conspiracy content all day, and I'm fine. But true crime content, I just can't do it anymore.
Did you get in your head?
It's just depressing hearing about people being tortured and murdered all the time, even if people are being silly about it. It's less like I'm afraid someone's going to break into my house and like, oh boy, I can't wait to gear up to hear about 3 hours of human suffering.
Right. That's fair.
And it's not even really historically important most of the time.
Yeah.
Like, you could argue some true crime content would be, but a lot of it is just like misery porn.
Yeah, it's misery porn, and then also becomes its own conspiracies where they're just like, there's murderers everywhere. And I'm like, yes, but no, not like that. And just because somebody put a slice of cheese on your car doesn't mean you're going to get kidnapped into, like, white indentured servitude. Or slave trade.
Trade. Someone like me in their 20s was drunk and had a pack of cheese and started throwing cheese at cars.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying from my life experience anyway. I never kidnapped anyone. I did throw food on strange cars.
Hell yeah. It's like, I like true crime asterisks, because I like things like Forensic Files, because it's like going into the science of how we're solving the crimes, or if there's true crime stuff where it's like dissecting what the fucking police and the prosecutors did wrong when they didn't handle cases correctly. Like, that stuff's kind of, I'm like, okay, that's interesting. You're actually learning something and getting something out of it, but I don't need to watch another fucking documentary about, like, Jeffrey Dahmer. It's like, okay, I get it. I just fucking...
If we don't know everything there is to know about that dude by now, then I just don't fucking care.
I don't care.
Just, like, some things you just don't... It doesn't matter.
No. What does matter, though, is, just sharing good stuff with your friends. Yeah. And making good stuff.
Like Paralyze, who made our theme song.
They did. You should listen to it and share it. It is good content.
At least once.
If
not, like, 30 or 40 times.
Hopefully more times.
It's on the Bandcamp.
Yeah.
Along with their new band, World I Hate.
Which is also good content and should be shared.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of content and sharing, we're on Instagram at Blank Bodies Pod, TikTok at Blank Bodies Podcast. We also have a Patreon. You can support us there. We got everything from Discord tiers to polls. We just wrapped up a poll for our next patron episode, night of recording anyway. So by the time you're hearing that's over, but we're doing a whole series on, excuse me, I had to swallow.
Swallow.
Now I can't even remember how to finish my sentence.
Quiet year.
Yeah, we're doing 3-part Quiet Year. So we're going to be playing a whole game of the Quiet Year to build a vampire city. Ooh. So that'll be fun. And by the time this episode's out, it'll have probably wrapped. But the next clan poll will have finished, and we'll know who we're covering next. We'll announce that next episode, because that's when in real life we'll know. But by the time this is out, we will know, but we don't know. It's time. This episode will travel through time from my mouth to your ears, dear listener.
Time is a flat circle.
Much like the Earth.
No! Bitch round.
We talked about this with the pointing, Sarah. Anyway.
Bitch round.
Bitch round.
If you want to support us on Patreon, you got the bonus episodes. We've got show notes. We've got character sketches available. There's blood. There's all kinds of stuff. Check us out there. You get exclusive Discord chat for their patrons. But Everyone can join our Discord for free. Come hang out. There's people playing games, people playing video games, all kinds of people building their games out, asking for advice, learning about new games, general memes,
People sharing their arts and crafts.
recipes.
Yeah.
What's
Just
going on in
supporting the
our
homies.
cosplay media right now?
What do you think a community does? That's what they do.
The community is kissing their homies on the forehead goodnight. Fuck
There's
yeah.
some really cool pictures of some coffin boxes in there right now.
There is. The coffin boxes are pretty dope. Coffin dice boxes. They're pretty dope.
Pretty dope. Made of wood.
Yeah, those are made by Brian, our friend Reroll Woodworks. He's donated a couple that we've given away in our raffles, if you've seen us do those before.
Which we might be tempted to do again.
Temptation.
Temptation.
The temptation never ends for more dice related goods. So we won't sell you. We don't have.
Snacks.
We're working on a store. We don't have a store yet. And when it goes up, we probably will still not have dice. So that's,
We'll figure it out.
but we'll sell you shit someday. So keep an eye out, I guess.
Yeah.
T-shirts.
Patches.
Yep.
Patches.
Working on it.
Buttons.
Buttons, stickers.
Stickers.
Maybe some other goodies. Let us know if there's
Yeah.
goodies you would be interested in.
Absolutely.
We can figure it out.
One time, a band I was in, when we released our first tape, we sold mosh pit hammers, which were just hammers with our logo burnt into them. I don't know if that would work for...
Squeaky hammers.
I don't know. I feel like that's going to get complicated. We have to import them and get them screen printed. See,
What?
the real hammers, we just went to like a Harbor Freight and gave them like a PNG of our logo.
I'm just saying, what if, and hear me out, we got like little stress squeezy things, but there were little corns on the cobs, and then on the backside it had our logo on it.
That would be funny, but I feel like we're going to have to order in a bulk that would be inconvenient to store in my house. So I might veto the idea from now.
Corn squish, corn squish,
You got a
corn
garage.
squish,
It's true.
corn squish.
It's got lots of things, and some of your things.
Yes.
There's a couple things of mine in there.
Yes, goodbye.
Hey, I'll see you. I'm going to go clean out my garage.
Hail Satan.
Goodbye, everyone. My shit's staying in your garage.
If you see
For now?
someone shoplifting,
Okay.
I don't have
no,
a
you
garage
didn't.
to put it in. Yeah. Repeat that. What'd you say?
If you see someone shoplifting, no, you didn't. Goodbye.
Exactly. Bye. Mwah, mwah, mwah.